Happy football season, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and Mac podcast, presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and Mac. It is time to talk Virginia Tech. Mac, it feels like we have been just talking about Virginia Tech hype this entire offseason, and now it's finally time to talk to Coach Pry and break down what we think is going to happen with Virginia
Come on,
Tech.
KG.
Finally.
It's time to talk turkey. Let's go. You know, I think what was kind of a big miss for us, and maybe we can go back and edit it. Who knows? We still got a little time. I should have done like a cooking thing for each team. I should have done a big turkey for this episode. But then it's kind of weird. Like I'm eating the mascot. I don't know. Like, you know, Clemson, obviously I do like a chicken. Miami, I could do like a gator. You know, who knows? We need to figure out like, you know, it's like good and bad. They do turkey legs at Lane Stadium. So, you know.
Would you be willing, let's say for Louisville, could you cook up a wildcat? Like, how are we going to do that?
Sounds highly illegal.
Yeah,
maybe something with bourbon, like some type of meat with bourbon.
This is a great idea, Mac. People don't understand that this August has been so busy for Eric McLean. Yeah. Mac, to me, this seems like an April or May project. I think this is something we put on the burner for 2025.
That's a really good point. That could be a fun project. If you guys are watching, can you just tell me like every team, like what could I cook for every single team? Yeah. I need all 17 because we have a Stanford tree now. I could use that as the pellet. No, gross. The Stanford tree could be like the pellets that I cook, the wood I cook with. Okay, we're on to something. We're really on to something right here. This is good.
We are. This was a great idea. Welcome to our brainstorming sesh. I actually love this idea, Max. So we'll get back. We'll table that. We'll make it up. But we're excited for this episode. So pumped with Coach Pry, who was awesome. There will be a cat making an appearance.
I forgot
during the Coach Pry interview. Yes. Yes.
What was the cat's name? Do you remember? Do you remember the cat's name?
No.
Leroy or something? It wasn't Leroy. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. The cat makes an appearance. Yeah. Anyway, we're talking turkey. We're talking all things Hokies. This is off the rails. We need to get to the interview. We're going to have a lot more after Coach Pry and just kind of give you our thoughts on the Hokies, win totals, what we see, what we like, maybe go into a little bit more detail of what we're really excited about for Virginia Tech. So quickly, our message from our friends over at Ingles. They're going to show you some smoked turkey maybe. Who knows what's coming up. And then we'll get to the interview with Coach Pry.
At Ingles, we know your closest companions are the ones who are always there for you. The ones you trust to have your back, no matter what. Who make the hard times a little softer. And the good ones, somehow, a little better. That's what family is all about. Whether they walk on 2 legs or 4. Ingles, all the ingredients for family.
Coach Pry, welcome back to the podcast, man. It's great to see you. We're in the middle of summer here. June has somehow become one of the busiest months that we have learned by doing these interviews. But do you have anything planned? Is there any fun on the horizon for the Pry family?
Yeah, not till we hit July 1 for us.
There we go.
I'm not going to say that for my wife and kids. Summer already started.
Right.
They don't wait for me.
I understand that.
Yeah, we've got some things planned. I mean, we've got a place down on the Gulf Coast that we love to go to and spend some time at the lake up here. But, you know, we have some fun here and there. We give the staff off on Wednesdays. And, you know, because right now, weekends, forget it. You don't have them. You know, you got visits, you got camps, we had a women's clinic that went till 11 o'clock Friday night.
Yes.
We had a youth camp that was 4 mornings, you know, all last week. I mean, so, you know, there's just been a lot. So we said, hey, let's designate Wednesdays as an off day and then try and bring them in a little later where I can or cut them loose so they can hit a tea time if they need to and, you know, some of that.
I love that. I love having that on the top of your mind. And I do want to, before we get to the field, I do want to ask about the ladies clinic here, the women's clinic. Do you have them all sign an NDA like Clemson does? I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Hey, those ladies clinics can get wild. They can get crazy.
I've been to the Clemson one, and let's just say what happens there stays there, Coach.
That's
Is
right.
that what happens at Virginia?
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good thing our wives were all in attendance.
That's right.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, if you haven't been to a ladies clinic before, you might not get it, but just go to Virginia Tech or whoever your team is, and you'll figure it out. Coach, when it comes, let's dive into your team here, because the hype train, really, Mac and I have been doing these summer guest interviews and all these things. The hype train for you and that team down there in South Florida that you guys don't like, which, really glad that game's back. The hype train for both you guys has just left the station. I mean, it's going. And so I guess let's just start there. Like, you guys are returning the most production in FBS. That's a big part of the hype train. Do you care? Do you even allow yourself to listen to it? Do you have to talk to your guys about it? Like, how have you approached that?
Yeah, so honestly, I read it and then I save it, good and bad.
Okay.
And I send it to some staff members, and we're going to use it internally. It's all noise, so I'm going to throw up everything great that they're saying, and we're going to ghost bust it. I'm going to throw up the bad stuff they're saying. Pry sucks. He's the worst coach in NCAA. Ghost bust it. Kyron Drones, number one quarterback, ghost bust it. Like, I love them getting pats on the back, but, we can't have complacency. We're not a team that we've got to keep getting better and stay really hungry. And so far we've done that. But I know they read it, they read it. And I just hope that it doesn't, that the message about what it means is very clear and certain for our team.
Coach, thank you for being honest, because so many coaches will say, oh no, we don't see any. That is not true. Like, we are all on internet. We see it. So I appreciate your honesty. And I think that's cool that y'all are going to use it.
Well, I want to know what the narrative is out there on us. That's important, right? I mean, you help shape that. And you want people to understand the program that you have and the type of players you have and what we're about and what's important to us. So I do read those things. But I also want to I want to know what our guys are reading and seeing. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. And I bet they appreciate that, to address certain things. If you're just acting like nothing's happening, it can get a little awkward and a little weird. Before I jump into your quarterback here, I want to go back to the returning production thing and the veteran experience, because I do think it's important. How do you expect that to affect, I guess, yourself, but also the guys and your mentality maybe in fall camp? Because you have so many veterans, so much experience. What do you expect to see, I guess, that is differently maybe from the last 2 years in this fall camp?
Yeah, I think we should be further along when we start camp. I'm never going to get away from fundamentals, 100 level stuff in the winter and the spring. We've got to do that, regardless of the experience we had returning. But as you approach camp, you're able to do a little bit more and experiment a little bit more and push the envelope in some areas, because you have veteran guys that already understand some things. And they showed you in the winter and spring, once again, that the 100 level, 200 level, we're going to do that. We've worked it. We believe in it. So it's just comforting to know more about more guys.
Right.
What you're going to get when you put them out there, good, bad, or indifferent. You just know how they're going to handle adversity. Are they going to make the catch? Are they going to tackle well? Nobody's going to play perfect, but more of what you're going to get. And that's a good spot, and it allows us to be a little more productive and effective in practice. And also those guys, it's about quality reps for them, because we got a slew of second-year and first-year players that need all the reps they can get.
Right.
So the quantity goes to those guys, the quality goes to the vets.
I love that. And I think it's a way that, man, you can just continue to build so much faster. And like you said, those practice reps, when you have those vets that you know what to get, now we can bring everybody else along, and it's just this constant machine. And that's a great place to be in. One guy that's a constant machine is your quarterback in Kyron Drones. I mean, that guy, it's so fun to watch. And just every game last year, I just see him getting better and more confident and better and making decisions faster. So, what progress, I guess, have you seen from him in the winter and the spring that, gets you even more excited? And what does he need to do, or how can he take that game, to another level that I think we all believe he can take it to?
Yeah, I think, obviously he's got to continue to make great decisions. He's got to continue to be healthy and strong to take the hits and to run the offense the way we want to run it. He's got to be smart in that regard as well. But, we've asked him, and he agreed. We need to be more accurate in contested coverage. When we're challenged in coverage, being able to put the ball where the wideout can catch it, but the DB can't get to it. And he's been better there. That was a point of contention this offseason. And then also just stepping into a bigger leadership role. He's got tremendous respect from our team and our staff. And to step forward a little bit more, be more demanding in areas where he needs to be. And he's done that as well.
He's impressed us since we had him on early last year. And I don't know, Coach, it may have been the Graham Looking McLean bump, because we had him on before almost anybody was
Hey, I'll
talking
take
about
that
him.
credit. Come on.
And here we are. We did it with Riley Leonard 2 years ago, just saying. But just impressed with him. And I think it's great that he's found such a good spot. And it's the positive of the transfer portal, right? It really is. And you've been able to capitalize on that at Virginia Tech, Coach. And one of those ways is in some ways through your wide receiver room. I mean, you're returning everybody. These are some guys, those came into Virginia Tech, transferred in, but then they want to stay. They want to stay and recommit, if you will, to coming back. So what does it mean to have this whole wide receiver room basically back, plus your tight end? And the fact that they all announced it pretty much on the same day or same time, like how did that go for you?
Yeah, I think that's a testament to two things, to the job that Coach Fontel Mines has done, not only with development in that room, but recruitment and retainment, the relationship he has there, the respect he has from those guys. I think it's a testament to the offense and what Coach Bowen's doing. But I also think it's a testament to the brotherhood that those guys have. As much as I want to believe it's all about the staff and the excitement with those guys want to come back and play together. They kind of got that train going where, hey, if we all come back, man, we got a chance to be a pretty special team. So we were kind of, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So let's, be talking to each other and recruiting each other. So, it's a great room. It's also an example that we talk with our team a lot about of, just being the most competitive room that we can create. That's what we want. That's what helps us reach our goals as a team. So we don't stiff arm transfers when they come in. We welcome them, even though we know they coming in to take reps from me. We're gonna embrace this guy and know that he's gonna allow us to be better because of his talent, but he's also going to raise the level in the room. The competition's been fantastic, and that certainly drives, the level that we can compete at.
Yeah, and that's what you need to turn around a program like you're doing, Coach. Can we talk about Ollie Jennings? Because I know he's a player that Virginia Tech fans are excited about. And last year, it was such a bummer, right? To see him get hurt. I know it was a bummer for you, Coach. So how is he looking now? What do you expect from him? I know it's early, but just talk to us more about him.
Yeah, he just teased us, right? He went against Old Dominion and had a big game, and then gets hurt like second player Purdue. Stop blocking. Gets rolled up on him. Very unfortunate. He's an awesome kid, first of all. He was one of the signature guys that kind of got this thing going for us with the transfer portal. And just, he was a statement guy that had other options and wanted to come home and do it at Virginia Tech. And, so I'm very proud of him. I'm proud of his resilience, bouncing back yet again from an injury. He was a little rusty in the winter and spring, but really worked through it. And I think he's ready to have a great summer and a great camp. The thing for us, we look at this in 4 phases: winter, spring, summer, and preseason. And so we're really just getting into the second half of our preparation, for the fall. And so a lot of these guys still have to keep notching it up to be the player they can be, to be the team we can be come Nashville, come that trip to Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense there. Speaking of all those guys coming back, what does that do for your QB? I mean, just from what's up? Whoa. You know what? We had another cat. How many years ago was that, KG?
That's
2 years ago? 2 years ago.
It was the DB from Louisville.
And I've got balloons flying up. What are we doing? This show is off the rails. This is insane. Yeah, the DB from Louisville, Coach.
What happened?
The cat smacked his phone and he went flying in the middle of the interview. It was so funny. It was so funny.
Who was it? Was it
I can't
Keetrell
remember his name.
Clark?
Yeah, it was Keach Elkhart. It was Keach Elkhart.
Yes.
That's so
He,
funny.
he says
That
he
is so
loves
funny.
cats. He's not a dog
Yeah,
person. Loves
yeah,
cats.
that's
Well,
amazing.
we've
That's
got 3
amazing.
cats and 2 dogs.
Oh.
And 2
There
of
we
the
go.
cats are Maine Coons, which that was Spike. He's the alpha. He kicks the dog's butt all the time. The dog's
I get it.
95 pounds. So
That's amazing. They don't mess. They don't mess with the big cat. They don't mess
Yeah.
with the big cat. But going back to those receivers and having all those guys back and just continuing, the development for drones there, I've got to think that trust and understanding how they run routes, how they do things really will help exactly what you just said about those contested throws and him wanting to make those.
absolutely. Yeah, there's a great relationship with him and those guys. And it started with him and Ali. They really bonded quick. But then it grew with Jay Lane and Quan Felton and Steve Gosnell. And, there's just – and then we've got some young guys in that room that we couldn't be more excited about. Aiden Green had a terrific spring. And he really challenged those 4 guys that came back, which was exciting. Chance Wiggins. I mean, there's just some guys that are going to push. Despite the retention and the old heads in the room, they didn't take a back seat this spring, which I loved.
Yeah, man, that's a great situation. That's what you want, that competition there. Let's talk about running the football a little bit here because it's such a mindset thing. It's such a Virginia Tech thing. When I think about running the football effectively and using your big quarterback to do that as well, you guys averaged right about 190 last year. Is that kind of the sweet spot, for this offense? And, what do you want to continue to see from the O-line and running back room this fall?
Yeah, we have to be able to run the football. That is who we are. That's the plan, right? Play good defense, play good special teams, run the football, keep people off balance, stay on schedule. I think I'm very proud of the progress our O-line's made. They've gotten better. They maybe are the most improved group, a group that went from being one of the worst units on the team to me, one of the strengths. We've got to do a little better against the big boys in our league. That's where we didn't fare as well last year. We got to close that gap through getting bigger, getting stronger, better technique. And we're doing that. And we got a dynamic back in Bayshaw too that helps those guys. It lets that O-line look pretty good at times. Yeah. And I like the combination with Malachi Thomas. Malachi's a north-south. He's a good spell for Bayshaw. He's got nice hands. He's got good pass pro. But it does go back. It starts with a mindset, not just that, hey, we're going to run the ball. It's what kind of program are we? Are we tough? Are we blue collar? Or do we just say that shit? Like, is that really who we are?
Come on.
We got to foster that. Like, that's got to be real.
Yeah.
So I think when you talk about a foundation, that's what we've been able to establish. And that's what we got to build and grow from.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, let's get fired up here on a Wednesday morning. I realized why Spike interrupted us. It's because we hadn't talked defense yet, and he was
disgusted. He was disgusted.
So It makes sense. Spike, we're sorry, my man. Okay, let's get to this defense, Coach. We know Blacksburg, Saxburg. We know the sacks you guys had last year. I think 39 total. You had 8 sacks against Syracuse. I mean, ridiculous. And it felt like it kind of grabbed momentum a little bit throughout the year. APR was a big part of that. We had him on the podcast too. I'm just saying. Where does that, and you talk about the blue collar mindset and you apply that to defense, but that's also what I think of when I think of Virginia Tech. I think of defense. So how do you feel like that mindset defensively has come along in your few years there at Virginia Tech going into this season?
Yeah, I think first of all, thank you to Coach Foster for bringing that mentality, that lunch pail mindset to the defensive side of the ball. I'm sure you guys remember I was here when we started that lunch pail. I cut my teeth under Bud with that mindset and that belief, and it's taken a little bit of time. It's personnel, it's the philosophy, it's the guys understanding how we want to play. We're not a group that's going to hang on blocks or look to get blocked. We're really an edge. We're a single gap edge defense. Coach Marr's done a great job, the entire defensive staff, of cultivating the fundamentals and techniques that are really important in this structure. It just took some time. And, I think, again, APR is an example. We were the worst group in the league at rushing the quarterback in year one. Mm-hmm. And we turn around in year 2 and become one of the best in the conference. APR walks in the room. He helps us from a talent standpoint, but he also opened everybody else's eyes in the room to, oh man, I got to be able to get on edges and use my hands like APR and get my
Right.
hips through and bend. And it just elevated everybody in the room. Cole Nelson, second half of the season, CJ McCray, Keyshawn Burgos. There's a lot of depth on that D line. And we've obviously added some pieces at D tackle, along with bringing back Fuga. So if you're going to have depth somewhere, man, that D line where you can keep the pressure on for 4 quarters and win more one-on-one blocks, Coach Price has done a great job. I'm pleased with where we're at with that group.
Yeah, me too. It's fun to watch, and I can only imagine having to defend those guys or offend them being an offensive lineman. And you mentioned adding, Aeneas Peebles to the group there. I mean, he is twitchy, man. He is a really good player that I think is going to fit, just in immediately. And now, okay, you can't double team or you can't slide, to a certain guy, because I imagine those guys are never going to be on the same side. You have to take advantage of that, and I can't wait to see it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is. Twitch is so important. I love twitchy guys. As you know, as a former old lineman, those guys are hard to handle. When the hands and the feet and the hips, and it's tough. And when you can put more guys out there that have that ability and that skill set, that's a problem for folks. And we're continuing to grow and develop there. But I'm excited. We have depth. We've got a foundation established up front. We've learned how to be a better pass rusher. I think the same thing defensively. There were some games, Louisville, NC State, Florida State, where we just didn't get off blocks enough, often enough, against the better teams on our schedule last year. And so, again, I think we've closed the gap. We've helped ourselves. But, we got to keep working and see.
Yeah, no question. I mean, a team can be judged so fast by both lines of scrimmage, and exciting to hear that, your perception of the offensive line is they're becoming a real strength. And I know what I'm getting from that D line. So it's going to be fun to see. And those guys just going against each other each and every day are only going to make each other so much better. So keep looking at this defense. The back seven, I think, has a shot too, but a guy I really want to highlight, and of course, go wherever you want with it. Dorian Strong has a chance to be one of the best in the country.
Agreed.
What have you seen from him? Is it just stay healthy, you'll be fine type of thing? Or is there still some things that, you think he can take it to another level with?
Yeah. One of the weaknesses that we talked about with Dorian and his family postseason was just his ability to play run defense. He could do all these things in man coverage and in coverage out to the big field and zone, and could play some nickel, but, being in the boundary and stepping up and taking on blocks and being a strong tackler. He wanted to put a little weight on in his return. He wanted to improve on his block destruction and his tackling. And we want to get him more opportunities at nickel. He's obviously a really good coverage player. He's got length. He can run. He works at mastering his craft all the time. He's got a lot of maturity. He's excitable. Again, he's a guy that, for all those retention guys, from Quan Felton to Jay Lane to AP, the message was, don't come back if you're just going to be the same guy. Yeah. Don't do it. Go on. Don't come back unless you're going to elevate. And how are you going to do that? And so each one of them had areas they knew they could improve on, to be closer to reaching their potential.
Yeah, man, that's powerful, and it's real life, right? It's like we've got to have these conversations in this new era. Just to touch on one thing quickly that you said there, why I guess the he's back. We're talking defense, big dog.
Be happy.
Yeah, right. Why the want to move him to nickel? Is that to show pro prospects, hey, he can do this, or is that just to help you put him in more unique spaces? What is the, I guess, benefit for you guys to do that?
Well, it's a couple of things. It's a strength. It can be a strength for Dorian. We weren't able to do it as much last year. We didn't play near as much nickel as we would like to in certain situations, because you had Dorian and Mansour, and we just didn't feel good enough about that third corner to move Dorian. We'll be in better place this year. We've got great candidates and second-year players at that third corner spot. Dante Lovett, Christian Williams, Braylon Johnson, guys that can step up and do that and give us the freedom, the luxury of sliding Dorian inside. So, a lot of times that guy is that slot, man. That's the tough sucker to cover, right? We look at it, if you can't play slot, I don't know how the heck we expect you to cover a slot, right? If you don't have that wiggle, if you're not that little water bug, so Dorian has great feet and hips, and, he can mirror those guys and change direction with the best of them. So I think that I hope that role will expand for him. That's the plan at this point.
Coach, you strike me as a guy who, you seem to live, breathe everything football. You love talking X's and O's. And maybe if you didn't have to deal with all the other stuff of coaching, especially in this current world, you might like that a little better. But it also feels like you've embraced that, like the retention that you guys have at Virginia Tech, embracing the portal. Was that a mindset shift at some point to say, hey, there's all this nonsense going on in college football, but for me to be able to do what I love, I got to just embrace all this stuff and not really complain about it, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. The GM piece of it is really important to what we're doing, just as important as the football aspect. So, as the head coach, that's my job. I can't pass that buck to somebody else. It's too important. And, I'm fortunate. I have a great staff, guys that I trust, and I know they're in those staff rooms, working the way I need them to work, the way I would want them to work if I was sitting there. They're talking about the right things. They're emphasizing the right things. But it's challenging. We've got great support from Whit Babcock and the administration, and we've got a heck of a fan base. We have so many positives. We have a great brand. It's just continuing to push the needle in the areas that we need to be the best program we can be. We're transparent. We're trying to do this with the majority of our team coming from our footprint. Obviously everybody can't, but there's a sense of ownership from our fan base, from the Commonwealth. I want that. It's great being a head coach at a place where you don't have to pretend to be anything that you're not. People appreciate the way we're doing this. And I believe, and I think they're starting to see it's just right for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, you fit right in, Coach. And I'm sure that's part of the reason why you took the job. When we look at your schedule really quickly, it's very interesting because 4 of your first 6 are on the road, which is interesting. But then you finish with that back half when you really need to make your money with only 2 road games. So is it just, hey, it's our schedule, whatever? Is there a way you have to prepare a bit differently for all those road games early?
No, obviously the Stanford trip.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about that as a staff operationally. How do we want to manage this? What's best for our team physiologically? How do we do this? Outside of that, and having a Friday night game at Miami and the Thursday night, so we definitely look ahead for those reasons to make sure we're doing and planning the right way. But outside of that, we're really, for the staff and the players, it's how do we win phase 3? How do we have this type of summer? We had a meeting yesterday, a couple of guys that just felt like there was some complacency, Monday and Tuesday. We can't have it. We're going to nip it in the bud right now. So they better have a darn good Wednesday. So, that's where we're living right now. Some of the other staff, they can look ahead and worry about the schedule and all this. Somebody asked me the other day if we played North Carolina, and I said, I don't know. I said, I don't know. I said, I'm sorry. I haven't looked that far down the road.
Well, you don't, at least
the answer's no.
But you do play Miami, and I alluded to that earlier. How happy are you, mainly just for the fans, that game's back?
Yeah, I love it for our fan base. I love it for all the Hokies. I know what that game, traditionally over the years. 1995, we're 0-2. I'm a first-year GA. We lost to Cincinnati and Boston College at home, and here comes Miami to Lane Stadium. We had never won a game against them in Lane Stadium. And we go on after being 0-2, win 13-7, run for about 250, play great defense, win 10 straight, and go to the Sugar Bowl. So even for myself, that memory for Pearson Prelo, J.C. Price, we were all part of that. And, those guys know. It's a big game for a lot of folks. And
Yeah.
Miami's a proud program. And Coach Cristobal's, obviously doing a great job. So, we got to do what we got to do between now and then to be a good enough team to go down there and compete.
Yeah, no question. We're all excited for that one. That should be untouched always, just because what it means. But last one for you, Coach. We've kind of asked everybody this, and just interested in how people are looking at it. But there's some new rules, on the field that'll be happening this coming year. We're gonna have iPads. We're gonna have video right now, to really digest and dissect what happened. And we're also gonna have that helmet, player to coach communication there, coach to player. Do you like it? What do you think about both of them? And just how will that change your game day approach moving forward?
Yeah, again, I guess at this point in my career, I consider myself old school, or at least some would. So originally I was like, oh my God, iPads? Are you kidding me? Communication through that. Yeah. But the young guys I got, both coordinators were like, oh my gosh, yeah, I can't wait, and so they embraced it. They ran with it. I'm going to tell you, the Military Bowl, we had the iPads, and you know how much it rained in that game. Grease boards, couldn't use them.
Right.
So the iPads were terrific. Really helped us out in that ball game. We used the helmet communication all through the spring. The guys did a nice job with it. I just told them, listen, let this grow and be what it needs to be and what's right for you guys. I'm not mandating anything. Use it the way it makes the most sense for you. And the player out there wearing it. Don't force anything. We got a pretty good thing going. I don't want to, put a monkey wrench in it. Let's make sure, because communication's so important, right?
Yeah.
And immediately you're like, oh, this will be better, but only if you use it the right way that makes sense for us. So
it will add to that noise. And it's funny. I was doing the Wake Forest spring game, and a couple of their older players were talking about the iPad. They're like, man, this can be distracting really quick, because you can just get so hung up trying to look at something that if there's a 3 and out or a quick thing to happen, you got to go. So it is going to be interesting just how teams handle it, how players handle it, and ultimately what it gets to. But Coach, like we've said 100 times, we are jacked up for this year. Cannot wait to see it. Hope you have a great summer, man, and we'll see you soon.
I appreciate both you guys. Appreciate the coverage. Appreciate you wearing that Blacksburg shirt.
Come on, baby.
Let's have a great year for the ACC.
No doubt. What's up, guys? As you can tell by the hats, the shirts, the logo, we've got a new partner, Underdog Fantasy plus Gramlich and Mac Lane. We are super excited. They sent us a bunch of swag. They sent us a bunch of tennis balls. KG, Sam has loved the tennis balls. I'm not sure what you've done with them. Maybe throwing them out. Jacob doing his thing, getting after it. But we are so excited. And just let me tell you a little bit about these guys. The favorite thing that I like is, number one, you've got fantasy drafts, where a ton of people know how to do that. Check it out. They have a really great thing there. But then you can pick your favorite player higher, lower. And KG, you've already got into this for kind of a season-long deal. Can you tell the people a little insight on what you got there?
Well, I'm going to tell you about my most recent Pick'em entry, but Underdog Fantasy, it's the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. I have it pulled up right here on my phone. It's so easy to download. We're going to give you a promo code in a second that you can use to start your journey here. But my most recent one, I did this before the start of the season, and this is called my ACC, Let's Go ACC pick, right? So these are positive right here. I've got Casey Concepcion higher than 800.5 receiving yards for the season. Rondé Gadsden higher than 550.5 for the season receiving yards. And then Jaden Ott, the Cal running back, higher than 975.5 rushing yards. So if all three of those hit, boom, then I'm going to be feeling good on Underdog Fantasy. So I'm so excited about this partnership, Mac. I think this is a unique way to get involved with the game and to play fantasy sports. And like we said, download that app, check it out. It is the easiest place to play fantasy sports.
It really is. Very user-friendly. And again, all season long, we've been giving you picks for years. We've been pretty good. Well, now we finally get to put our money where our mouth is, and you can join us, okay? And we want to give you kind of a reward if you sign up and use our code GMPOD. That's GMPOD, all caps there. You have a special pick that you can claim. And then for first-time deposit, they will offer up to $250 in bonus cash. So if you put in $250, they're going to put in 250. If you only put in 100, they'll put in 100. So we're giving you money, guys. You got to use our code. Sign in. This is going to be an awesome thing all year long. KG and I are going to be bringing you our picks. And if you look historically, you might want to listen to Kelly. She's a little bit better at the picks than I do. But we'll see. We'll see who makes the most money at the end of this thing. KG, I'm jacked up for it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Cannot wait. Our code GMPOD, GMPOD. Sign up now. We'll put some links on social media and below in the description here on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts. Join in on the fun today with Underdog Fantasy. Thanks again to Coach Pry and his cat for joining us here on the podcast. And because we got so off the rails in the beginning of this podcast and Mac's computer's doing crazy stuff.
We're keeping it going.
We're keeping it going. Let's just remind people, if you don't know, for some reason, Virginia Tech went 7-6 last year, 5-3 in the ACC. They won the Military Bowl and beat Tulane in a crazy rain type game. And this was a team last year that started off really poorly. And so if you just looked at their first month, I think a lot of people would have been shocked that they made a bowl game, but they did. They won 7 games. Big step, like massive step, Mac, in the right direction. And now because it's Virginia Tech, because it's one of the blue blood brands of the ACC, now people are taking that step and turning it into a leap, right? Possibly talking playoff. Yeah. Where are you, Mac? Like and I know it's tough, Mac, for you to stop the hype train sometimes. Yeah. I know it. But where are you just overall with Virginia Tech?
Yeah, I'm strapped on to the Kyron Drones rocket ship blasting out of this atmosphere. That's what I'm doing. I'm full steam ahead and just excited, because they have so much coming back. Number one, returning production offensively in all of FBS, top 5 total team when you look offense and defense, special teams, all coming back. I mean, these guys they have it all. And it's one of those things where you just saw something click at the end of the season. Everybody, and the defense getting back to Saxburg, getting back to that, what we used to seeing, tackles for loss, sacks, creating, great opportunities for the offense. The run game with Bashal Tootin and with Kyron Drones was nasty. I expect that to be, again, one of the best in the ACC when you talk about 1-2 punch. And just the natural growth that we see from year 1 to year 2 of a quarterback. We're going to talk about that with a lot of these guys. As we continue this series, you see big time steps, comfortability in the offense, trusting in your wide receivers, which we talked with Coach about how important that is. All those guys coming back. Now he's just going to rip it. There might have been times a year ago where he was maybe a little timid or he didn't really know. 2 things. Number 1, can I fit it in that window? Number 2, can my guy make the play? Now there's confidence equally of yes, to answer both of those questions. And just seeing that, the continued growth from the offensive line, KG, I'm all over this team thinking that they're going to make some noise.
I agree, Mac. I think this team will definitely make some noise. I think this team's going to be in the hunt. I think they're for sure. Well, we can't say for sure in college football. I think they're going to finish in the top 6, top 7 of the league. Now, where is that? That will be the big question. Let me throw, because Mac gave you the positive there. Let me throw kind of my 2 question marks out for Virginia Tech here. I think the wide receiver position to me is a big question mark because you have a lot of guys who've either been out, and Ollie Jennings. You need a bit more explosiveness from that position. I know what you're getting with Bashal Tootin. I feel really good about Kyron Drones. Like you said, I feel really good about the run game. Who can truly emerge at wide receiver? My other question, Mac, the secondary is really good. The D-line is really good. This team actually moved into the top 20 in total defense for the first time since 2017 last season, which was huge. But it's kind of that middle. Linebacker's a question. D-tackle's a question. Can they be better against the run? They had a lot of sacks last year. The secondary was really good. You got to stop the run. We know how important that is. And then who can be a bit more explosive offensively at the wide receiver position? Those are my 2 questions. Yeah. If you answer those and you answer them with, big time answers, then maybe we are talking about a potential Charlotte trip for Virginia Tech. And maybe we are talking about a potential playoff trip for Virginia Tech.
Come on. Let me just tell you this. I think the 2 teams playing in Charlotte are going to the playoff. I just think that unless there's like a 10-2 team floating out there that maybe lost, a la maybe a Miami, maybe Virginia Tech beat Miami to take their spot in the championship game, and Miami was just kind of waiting there could be something there where the third team actually benefits from not playing in the ACC championship. But I think the two are going to go. So anyway, to answer your question, Jalen Lane, he was a kind of a guy that took the top off last year, a speedster that really made things happen. And then Daquan Felt, big dude, was a deep threat, was able to make things happen. I think those two, with the emergence or return of Ollie Jennings, that three-headed monster there, that you feel really good about. And then, of course, having Gosnell as well, a guy that I know he just scored his first touchdown of his career last year, but stepped up and was really a guy that made things happen there. I know they have a couple other young players that they're excited to really get going. Then on the defensive line, I'm glad you brought this up because Aeneas Peebles from Duke is a freak show, and he's going to be there on the defensive line. He's going to be a guy that really steps up. There.
It's who's going to be kind of the other D tackle. They've got a lot of transfers fighting for that spot. But no, I feel good about that, Mac. I just feel like we know they can rush the quarterback, but you got to be able to stop the run too. That's 100%, the other question.
100%. And I think that the depth that they expect to have on that defensive line, you look at Joshua or Fuga as well on the D line, like those guys, they all have to step up. You're right, to make that happen. But I think we saw that in spurts. And at the end of the year, kind of maybe finish the way that you think so. Because you're right. That's how you set the tone. That's how Virginia Tech made their name, back in the day where, the Sugar Bowl was the expectation. The Orange Bowl was the expectation, with these big time things, and then taking that next step to get back to a national championship like they did, a handful of years ago. So I'm really excited. And I'll tell you one other guy that just really blew me away. When we were at Media Day, Dorian Strong sat on the desk with us. And I mean, that dude, I don't know if quite president vibes, but close. Like he is a bona fide leader. I mean, just as soon as he spoke, I'm like, whoa, like this guy commands a room. When he enters it, he commands this team. And, I think that was just so evident. And I can only imagine what his work ethic's like. Coach was over the moon about him, the places they're going to put him, the things they're going to try to do with him. And I kind of asked him quite frankly, KG, and said, listen, Dorian, you have all these abilities. What position do you like to play? Where do you want to be? He said, put me on an island at corner. I'm going man to man and don't even look at that side of the field. And that confidence, that swagger, I was like, okay, big dog, let's see it. Let's see it.
Yeah, that's what you need to play corner. We know that, Mac. As we've talked about, we're both high on Virginia Tech. Let's look at this schedule. Because to me, the schedule is pretty favorable. When you look at those, and I actually tweeted this somewhat recently, the 7 teams in the ACC that are projected to win 8 or more games. When you look at those 7, Virginia Tech draws 2 of them, Miami and Clemson. So they have those games. Miami, they're happy to have the Miami game back. That's at Miami. Clemson, they get at home. Beyond that, you've got quite a few ACC games. You're probably going to be favored at every other ACC game besides probably those 2.
Right.
And then your non-con MAC, Vandy, Marshall, Old Dominion, Rutgers, you should handle those teams. You should at this point. So I think this schedule, because of how manageable it shakes up to be, and I mentioned those questions, I think Virginia Tech has the answers. I'm just saying those are the questions to me. I think they have the answers. I think I am taking the over with Virginia Tech at 8.5. It's moved up to 8.5, by the way. It was at 7.5. It's moved up to 8.5.
We should have recorded this earlier. What the heck?
Yeah, seriously. Right. I mean, hey, if you got it way earlier, good for you. I think 9-3 is 9-3 to me is what is very, very possible. I think 10-2 would be an incredible year, to your point, Mac. Yeah. But I see 9 wins. I see it at least.
I don't think it's crazy at all. I'm right there with you, hammering the over with this team, just because, again, the way the schedule maps out. It needs to be a complete flip from the start last year where you're staring 4-0 down, probably ranked in the country, traveling to Coral Gables on a Friday night. I mean, that's where you need to be. That needs to be prime time, big boy game down in Miami, where there's a potential bid for the ACC championship on the line in September. I mean, that's where that needs to be. And that's the type of caliber, that game needs to get back to, with all those fans. I know everybody excited that's on the schedule there and the things that they're going to make happen. So I'm right there with you, KG. I think that, after that, you recover, you're at Stanford. So you kind of go into the bottom, then you're going to the far left. And then, Boston College, Georgia Tech, at Syracuse. And then, of course, Clemson comes to town. So it's going to be fun to see, just what this team's able to do. How are they able to make the strides? You heard from Coach on what he thinks growth-wise it should look like. And I think another thing that he kind of referenced, KG, that is really, kind of interesting to me because it is so different. When you are older, when you have more experience, when you have that tangible depth, you can install things so much quicker. And that just puts you further ahead, and it is a good thing. I mean, it's an SEC opponent, but it's Vanderbilt. Like, you got to handle business there. But it is a good thing that you have those type of quality opponents, because you should get you guys in and get them out. Like, let's get the starters in, do their thing, and let's build depth for 4 games. And again, that's none of the coaching staff's, mindset. That's just mine to see what we would love to see here. But I think that's a realistic possibility that will only strengthen Virginia Tech as the season goes on.
There are quite a few, actually, I would say pretty much every one of the teams that we think is going to compete to be in the top 5 or 6 of the ACC.
Yeah.
They have very important early games. And to me, Virginia Tech, you might look at this September and think, I mean, there's no real big names till Miami. But because of their expectations and because of how they started last year, I think those first 4 games can tell me almost everything. Like, if you're not 4-0, you're not accomplishing what you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so you got to start fast.
I agree. I totally agree with you. And I think it's kind of what you were alluding to. There's not a game, but it's a month. Like that, that month will tell us. And it is massive because you do need to start fast, and the expectation. I mean, things can lean one way or the other very quickly. And, the support that you need imagine what that's going to look like if and when, Virginia Tech starts that way. And then they're welcoming Boston College as the first ACC game at home. I mean, that's going to be electric. Okay. When you see that, university, that fan base, you and I have raved about that for years, about how solid and incredible that fan base is. If we can walk in with a top 20 Virginia Tech team in Lane Stadium, that place will go berserk. I mean, I can't wait to see it because, quite frankly, I think we're going to very soon.
We're both high on them. We're both taking the over. We'll see. We'll see what happens. They only draw Miami and Clemson from kind of that top group. And I'm excited. Like you said, Mac, it would just be Lane Stadium's already crazy. So, I mean, please, let's get a ranked team in there. And that's just going to be so much fun to watch.
I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, KG, but I know you can handle it. Is there a guy of the dudes that we've pointed out that you think, let's say outside of quarterback, or you can say Kyron if you want. Is there a guy that if this dude plays to the level we think, Virginia Tech will be in business?
Ollie Jennings.
Yeah.
That's who it is for me. I like you said, Mac, they did have guys that played well at wide receiver last year. Mm-hmm. But what we've seen, and of course you think back to Florida State last year, and then of course all the Clemson teams, you need dynamic guys at wide receiver. You need guys that are going to go make a play when maybe Drones, isn't playing as well, or the weather, or whatever, or you're on the road and you need to play. Keon Coleman is the perfect example. Yeah. You think of the play he made at Clemson last year to effectively win the game. Like that, it's guys like that need to go make a play for you. And so I'm going to go with Ollie Jennings. There was so much, hype and excitement last year. And of course he gets hurt right at the beginning of the season. It was just brutal. But he's a guy to me that I think can make a massive difference.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I'm going to go on the defensive side. Side. And I'm going Aeneas Peebles. I mentioned him earlier, and here's why. Because there's no question he's extremely talented. The things he was able to do at Duke, I think he had close to 9 or 8.5 tackles for loss last year. Here's the deal. APR is going to get a ton of attention. He exploded last year, had a big-time year. He's going to get slid to, where the offensive line is going to try to have a zone approach where they have multiple guys going at him. He's going to be chipped. He's going to be hit with tight ends, extra blockers. So what you have to do now is you put Aeneas on the other side where it's one-on-one matchups and there's a lack of attention, and he has to eat. You got to be that guy. You have to win. You have to go. You're closer to the quarterback. You're right there in a 1, 2, or 3, kind of technique there, and you have to make teams pay. If they're going to try to eliminate one of your guys, you have to be that great equalizer that either feasts or commands enough attention where that will help APR. And it's not even a stats thing to me. It's just, can he take advantage of that and then shift the narrative? Because quite frankly, KG, you come in with a plan And then all of a sudden, I'm not sure what number he's wearing, but all of a sudden this D tackle is whipping you. We got to change our plan. And then, of course, your defensive end goes off. So there's a lot of guys, but I'm with you. Those two that we just mentioned, if they have second or first team all ACC caliber of years, Virginia Tech's going to be in the playoff. Not even just the ACC championship. They'll be in the playoff.
And Mac, I think you and I both agree that I see 2 ACC teams in the playoff. So
yeah.
There's a few spots.
Hey, we'll see. I had one in the playoff last year. Who knows?
Well, on that note, let's wrap this.
Let's get out of here. That's right. Great episode. So much fun. Big shout out to Travis Wells. Can't do this without him. Thank you for setting this interview up. And of course, Coach and the Cat making an appearance. Always appreciate that. And Coach Pry's time. He's one of the best. And look forward to get back to Blacksburg. Hopefully we're there this season. It's one of the best environments in the country. Never take it for granted when we're there and seeing that. And hopefully it's a big time party. So we need your help. Go over to YouTube. Hokies fans, jump in this train with us. I think it's going to be a really good year. And I think we're going to be talking about the Hokies a ton. So we'll continue to have that content for you guys. Jump in the comments. Tell us what you think about, are we too high on Virginia Tech, or are we right there with you guys? Are you as excited as we are and thinking the same thing? Jump in there. Let us hear it. And of course, the OGs over on Apple Podcasts, rate, review, subscribe there as well. We would greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.